Welcome to MacStories Unwind, a weekly review of everything MacStories and more. Today's show is brought to you by Mac Updater. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is our editor-in-chief at MacStories, Federico Viticci. Happy Friday, Federico.
Hello, John. Happy Friday to you as well.
Hello. It's good to talk to you again. It's been a little while. We're getting back in the saddle. We've had a really weird recording schedule this summer. I guess it doesn't. People who listen don't know that, but it's the summer, and I guess that's pretty typical for us because some days you're at the beach, some days I've been out of town, some days we have events going on in the Apple world. It's been an irregular schedule, but it is the summer, and we're being flexible about it, so that's good. We had a fairly slow news week this week, but we do have some things to talk about. And I think, Federico, right off the bat, I want to talk to you a little bit about that very famous album from U2 and that finger touch between Tim Cook and Bono, because I had a reason to revisit this week, which was my HomePod minis. You convinced me to try the HomePod beta, and I regret that now because the HomePod beta has not been good to me. The HomePods have not been staying on my network for very long. And when I heard that Beta 3 around the time Beta 3 came out for iOS, the Audio OS beta, maybe it's 2, came out. And I figured, well, I got to go for this because maybe this is going to help. But of course, if your HomePod's not on the network, it's a little hard to get that update downloaded. So I was fiddling around with the HomePod, trying to get it back on the network by unplugging and replugging it. And it got back on the network, but it didn't really get back on my iCloud account. And as soon as I tapped the top of it, it started playing a song. And I looked in the Home app to see what it was playing. And it was a song by U2 called The Troubles. And that's from Songs of Innocence, the album that was given away free to 500 million people, including me, in 2014. And I thought, well, this can't be a coincidence. And so I thought, well, I got to test it, though. I gotta live up to these journalistic standards that we live by. So I unplugged my HomePod again, and I tried the same thing again. And this second time, I got another song from the same album called Volcano. It's called Volcano. These weren't even like the first and second tracks on the album either. It was like they're like number 4 and number 7.
It was shuffling the album.
It was shuffling the album. I don't think my phone wasn't on shuffle. Anyway, it's a very funny story, and just goes to show that whatever Apple did to cram that album onto everybody's iCloud account, they did it in such a way that it just pops up in the weirdest places, because I was not connecting properly to my iCloud account, but I was on the internet, and as long as I was on the internet, I was going to get Songs of Innocence. So that's what I got. And I wish I could say that my HomePods have been stable since, and I got them back to working order, but they still have issues. So it seems to be the minis in particular. My main original HomePods seem to be fine, but the minis have been causing me all manner of trouble ever since I put the beta on. So we'll see.
I'm sorry, John. I'm really
It's okay.
sorry.
It's okay. Now that I have my new setup in my new office, I don't actually need the mini in my office as much, because the M1 iMac speakers in that little thin body of a computer are remarkably good. Especially if you're not like playing music really loud, because I've got like my family around in the summertime during the day, so I don't have the music turned on very loud unless I'm wearing headphones or something. But the built-in speakers on that iMac are actually quite good for being something that's that tiny. So I've been pretty happy with those. What else should we talk about, Federico? I think we need to dive into this backpack for the iPhone, which the MagSafe battery pack. Have you ordered one of these?
Of course I did.
I knew you had. So have I.
Yeah, so Apple announced this new MagSafe battery pack, which is coming next week. It's a $99 battery pack that it's basically exactly what we imagined Apple would do. It's like the MagSafe wallet, but it's a battery, and it attaches to the back of the phone, and it charges the phone wirelessly at 5 watts. So slow, sort of kind of like cheese style slow charging, right?
Right.
Which is not a surprise, because I feel like Apple doesn't want like a portable battery to run up the full 15 watt charging rate, right? Because you're keeping this thing in your pocket. But yeah, this is exactly the kind of accessory that we thought Apple was going to do. And there's a few interesting details here, of course. So unlike other products by Anker and other companies, this is a MagSafe accessory, and it's made by Apple. So you will see it will be compatible with the batteries widget on iOS. So you will be able to see the remaining battery of the battery pack in the widget. Additionally, it comes with its own Lightning connector, so you can charge the case, but it appears that you will also be able to reverse charge the battery pack by plugging the cable into your iPhone. So if my understanding is correct here, you plug the cable into the iPhone that's connected to the battery pack, and the iPhone reverse charges it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What if you plug both in? What if you plug both in at the same time?
I think each charges individually.
That
would be
sense.
my guess. That would be my guess.
Yeah. Hopefully that's all that happens.
Yeah, hopefully. We don't have official specs yet, but Mac Rumors spotted the size of the battery. So this should be 1460 milliampere battery. So not too big of a battery. It's a small one. It doesn't even give you a single full charge, I believe. So this is why does this accessory exist? I feel like this is the kind of accessory that you buy if you want to quickly top up your iPhone while you're on the go and you want to go from like 10% to 60% or something, just to make sure that you have enough battery life to go through the full day until you go back home or whatever you're staying, and you can charge your iPhone with the cable.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And there are aspects of this that I really like. I like that it's not a case, because the thing about the cases was that they came out mid-year, and if you're someone who picks up a new phone every year like you and I do, then there was nothing to do with that case anymore, and it felt kind of wasteful. This also, because it works with any MagSafe iPhone, should work with future iPhones, and you can share it with somebody else if you have someone else in your household who has a MagSafe iPhone. So those are all good. I'm not so sure about the white. The whites,
yeah,
I think they're going to potentially look dirty pretty quickly, especially if you're carrying this around in your pocket, or it's rattling down in the bottom of a bag or something like that. But I like the idea, even though it isn't the beefiest battery around. I do feel like it's the kind of thing that, as you said, will help top things off at the end of the day. I don't know about you, but my battery on my iPhone this year is remarkably good for this late in the cycle, because I always notice sometime in the summer or early fall, the battery's starting to go a little bit on the iPhone. And with this big 12 Pro Max, I have plenty of battery all day long. Now, part of that, I suppose, is that, especially with most of the year with the pandemic, I haven't been out as much as usual. So I haven't had those kind of travel opportunities to see my battery really take a beating, where I'm taking photos on a vacation or something like that. But it's still in pretty good shape overall. So I've been pretty pleased with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have liked to see more colors, but I absolutely cannot wait for this one. I think this is going to be the perfect accessory for the beach, where I'm going to be swapping my MagSafe wallet for the battery when I want to get more juice into my iPhone. So yeah, I am looking forward to this one.
I think you need it for the beach, because I don't think you have a very good signal down there.
Nope. And it drains the battery. Yeah,
exactly. Because I know you send me screenshots once in a while late in the day, and your phone's always on its last legs when you send those.
Always, yes.
All right, Federico, we have a third story to talk about, and this is one that you don't know much about.
I don't want to hear about it.
I can't say much about it. Yeah, I know. We got news about Emoji, and I'm going to talk around the Emoji. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but because you have another podcast on that's completely unrelated to MacStories called Connected. It's a very good show. People should listen to it. And you do that with Stephen Hackett and Mike Hurley. And you do this game called the Jeremys, where you have to guess the names of the new emoji every time they're updated in iOS. And this year is a little different because of the pandemic. Things are behind the typical schedule of years past. So we don't have a final set of emoji yet, where Apple and other vendors are saying these are going to be our emoji come fall. Instead, what we have is a draft list that may change. So we got some renderings from Emojipedia. Our friend Jeremy Burge over there published those, and there are quite a few of them, but the list may change. So this is one of those things where I think we'll see these probably, if I had to guess, it'll be either very late in 2021 or more likely probably next spring in 2022. But it's always fun to see new emoji, and we'll have to see how many of these actually end up in the final list. There are a couple of interesting ones in there that I'm not even going to say what they are because I'm not gonna spoil your game.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay,
all right. Tell me a little bit about the club, Federico.
So in the club, I started this new series this week on my setup in Obsidian. So Obsidian is a note-taking app and markdown text editor that we've been covering for a while on App Stories. I covered it, sort of my research approach on MacStories Weekly before as well. But Obsidian for iPhone and iPad launched finally this week on the App Store. And I don't have time to do a full review on MacStories because I'm busy with things that we're doing with the club and I'm busy with the iOS review. But I thought I still want to do something about it. So I figured this should be a series in multiple installments. And that felt perfect for Club MacStories members. So starting this week in MacStories Weekly, you will find part 1 of my series called My Setup in Obsidian, My Obsidian Setup. And in this first installment, I cover the very basics. So sync, whether you should be using local storage or iCloud Drive, core plugins. What is a plugin in Obsidian? What's the difference between the core plugins and the community plugins? Some of the highlights from the core plugins, settings that you should consider. One core plugin called Workspaces that really changed how I manage my notes and my article drafts in Obsidian. So all the very basics, and there's lots more coming. I have a long list of topics to cover in the future. I have some more sort of high-level advanced topics that I'm also saving for a future something on the club. Yeah, there will be shortcuts. There's like Obsidian. It's like its little own OS for writers. And you can imagine there's a lot to cover there. And there really is. Starting this week, you will get the basics and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, I actually tried to encapsulate that app in a paragraph for the app debuts in this week's issue. And it was really hard because it's such a deep app. There's so much that can be done with it, even though at its heart, it's just a text editor for markdown files.
Yeah.
I had a Shortcuts Corner essay this week. And I talked a little bit. I made a very basic shortcut. All it does is run a URL scheme. It runs a URL scheme for an app called Home Control. And I went into a lot of detail about what Home Control can do, why the URL scheme is the way to do it, and how you can get this working on your Mac and the best way to do that. Because I wanted to, even though there are still a lot of issues and things that don't work quite right in shortcuts for the Mac, there's a lot that works too. And I think it's a good time to start exploring those things and getting a sense for how shortcuts is different on the Mac from iOS or iPadOS, because there really are unique differences that go to the hardware that underlies the app. And it pays to kind of get familiar with those before third-party developers start putting out their own actions, because it gives you a head start on working on this. So if you're running the beta, this is kind of an approach to experimenting with shortcuts for the Mac. Yeah. So that's what we covered, along with our usual roundups of new app debuts and links and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. All right, Federico. This week on App Stories, we had episode 231. The numbers are really getting up there. But you and we talked about app customization, and we had talked back in January about modularity of apps. And this is kind of a continuation of that to encapsulate some of the trends we're seeing with things like Carrot Weather, Obsidian, Good Task, and Craft, and other apps that are doing this customization, both on a functional level with things like plugins, but also on a visual level with theming and modularity within apps like Carrot Weather. So good discussion there about where things are going with app trends these days.
Yeah.
All right, Federico, this episode of MacStories Unwind is brought to you by Mac Updater. Mac Updater is an effortless way to ensure that all of the software on your Mac is always up to date with the latest version. With a single click, the app scans your system for installed software and provides you with a comprehensive list of everything that is outdated in one simple, clear interface. Mac Updater has an enormous built-in database of version information for over 60,000 apps, and it can update over 6,000 of those most popular apps with a single click. With version 2, Mac Updater added the ability to update multiple apps simultaneously, the ability to update non-app software you've installed, password-free updates for non-admin user accounts, support for Big Sur, Apple Silicon Macs, faster system scans, and a whole lot more. The app supports the latest technologies too, things like the Touch Bar on the MacBook Pro. Mac Updater is available as a one-time purchase. There's no subscription or other kinds of recurring fees or hidden costs. And for a limited time, readers of MacStories and listeners of this show can get 10% off when they use the coupon code MacStoriesQ3 at checkout. I'll put a link in the show notes too. So go visit Mac Updater's website today to learn more about this terrific utility and take advantage and control of updates on your Mac. Our thanks to Mac Updater for the support of the show. Before you give me your pick, do you think we should talk about Apple Arcade? Because there have been some updates there.
We should, because I don't have a pick. I'm sorry.
Oh. You had another one of those weeks, didn't you? All right. Well, these, yeah, I know it has. We heard a lot of new apps coming out on Apple Arcade. Then they all came out today. We've got Alto's Odyssey Lost City, which
all of these are out today?
Yeah, these top 3 in this list that we have in our notes here all came out today. So Alto's Odyssey Lost City came out today, and that is a special edition of Alto's Odyssey that originally came out in 2018, I want to say, and I linked to the trailer last week. But in any event, it's out. I'm going to play it this weekend. I think you should too, Federico. I know that you like the original a lot. We've also got Angry Birds Reloaded and Doodle God Universe, which is, and both of those apps are obviously kind of remakes of or remasters of existing classic games. I'm not familiar with Doodle God Universe, but that's out as well. And we've got other things coming too. There's been updates to What's the Golf and Grindstone too. So check out Arcade this weekend because there's some pretty cool stuff there. There was also an announcement that an app called WordWeb is coming.
I've seen this, yeah.
Have you? This is not a game I'd seen before. It looks a little bit like Scrabble, I want to say, from the screenshots. If you're into word games, it looked like a fun one. So that's another one to look forward to, although it's not out yet. All right, Federico, you're a superhero guy, aren't you? Actually, I know you're not. That's right.
I'm really not. I'm sorry.
You're really not.
I know superheroes by name, but
yes.
the superhero movies, it's not something that we watch a lot.
I know. Well, here's what I did, Federico. Disney Plus has Black Widow out, and it came out simultaneously in the theaters and at home. And at home, it was $30. And I went for it and watched it. I think that's the first time I've done that. I mean, we already pay for Disney Plus, and this is on top of that. And $30 seems like a lot. On the other hand, if you have multiple people in your family and you were going out to the movies, you would spend more than $30 pretty easily. And so Jennifer and I watched this last weekend. It's a good movie, not the greatest, but I liked it a lot. Lots of action. And, if you're into the Marvel movies, I don't think this is one that you let go by because it kind of picks up the story and continues, the whole Marvel Universe lore. And it's overall a great movie. And I think even Federico, you might enjoy this one because it's not really a superhero movie because Black Widow is more of a spy who's just a real good fighter more than having special powers. So maybe I would sell it to you that way.
Okay.
I don't know. I think there have been some biological changes made to the Black Widow. The Black Widows are actually a bunch of different people. There's the Black Widow, who is the subject of the movie, but the Black Widows are a group of spies that were all trained at the same time. So there are many, many Black Widows in this movie, but
This
there's
sounds
of
complicated.
course it gets complicated fast. All Marvel stuff gets a little crazy and complicated. But Scarlett Johansson, she's the main character, of course, and the main Black Widow. And it's a good movie. I enjoyed it, had fun with it, and the rest of my family can watch it on their own time. We've all 3 or 4 of us will watch it. So I recommend it. I don't think you're going to think it's the best Marvel movie if you're a Marvel fan, but it's certainly not the worst either. So, worth checking out.
Okay.
All right, Federico. I think that's it for another Friday. I think we did it. I think we made it again. We made it to the end of the week. You can find the two of us over at MacStories.net. We've got a lot of things cooking right now. We're going to have a lot more coming throughout the summer with our Summer OS series and other things we have planned. So keep an eye out on MacStories.net. You can find Federico and I over on Twitter and Instagram too. Federico is at Viticci on Twitter and Instagram. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHN VOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.